Hello, everybody. Hello to everyone joining. Welcome to the New Nerd Herd, a place where the average person, business owner, or tech geek can ask any questions related to technology or cybersecurity. Drop your questions in the comments during our live stream, and we'll make sure to answer them during the show. My name is Aaron Sullivan. I'm a systems engineer at Trumbull Tech, an MSP dedicated to delivering proactive IT services and cybersecurity solutions specifically tailored for small businesses. Today, I am joined by everyone's favorite podcast co hosts, my fellow colleague, our resident CISSP and cybersecurity expert, Elmer Robinson, along with Scott Sabelico, CRO of Trumbull Tech, and a passionate advocate for helping businesses navigate today's technology and security challenges. Welcome to the show, guys. How are we doing?
Aaron, how you doing?
Thank you for joining me today. And we are also joined today by a special guest, Ben Padezanin with ADP. Ben brings extensive experience helping businesses streamline payroll, HR, benefits administration, compliance, and workforce management. As one of the leading experts in the field, he understands the challenges business owners face when it comes to managing their people while staying focused on growth. Ben is here today to share insights on workforce trends, HR best practices, and the technology that can help businesses operate more efficiently and securely. Ben, how you doing? Thanks for joining us, man. Welcome to the
Great,
New
thanks.
Nerd Herd.
Hey, Ben.
Awesome. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. Do you want to tell everyone in the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. My name is Ben Padezanin. I'll tell you a little bit about myself personally. I'm originally from the Atlanta, Georgia area, Alpharetta, Georgia. It's about an hour north of Atlanta. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I joined the Marines after high school before I started school at University of South Florida, where I got my BS in management. And then I started at ADP about a year ago. So professionally, I've been with ADP about a year. I'm in the small business services segment of ADP, which is all companies between 1 and 49 employees. We help with anything payroll and HR compliance for small business owners.
Awesome. And for those who've never heard of ADP, what does ADP stand for?
ADP is automatic data processing, is our publicly traded tag. We always call it always developing for people. It's just always designed
Nice.
for people.
I would have guessed the P said payroll for something.
I know that's what most people think. Honestly, when I was applying, that's probably what I thought too. But
That would be too simple. That would be too easy, right?
exactly.
Yeah. So what type of businesses, Ben, do you typically work with in your day-to-day?
Right. So I work with a wide range of small businesses ranging from professional services, construction, healthcare, retail, hospitality, nonprofits, tech companies. Really, the only industry that we don't work directly with is dispensaries. That's just due to federal regulations. Most of them are just growing businesses looking for ways to operate more efficiently.
Excellent. And you help them do that by helping them outsource their payroll and their HR and everything, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Businesses come to us when payroll is becoming more complex as they start to scale and grow, as their revenue starts to increase, and it's just time to have a more scalable feature in place.
Yeah, because especially when they start being multi-state companies, right? Things tend to get exponentially more complicated, right?
Absolutely. Different jurisdictions require different tax codes, different hiring practices. It just becomes a lot for one small business owner to deal with on top of all of the other things, the suite of different vendors and employee issues that they're coming across on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll be honest with you. I worked for an accounting firm, ran the IT for them for 15 years. I got to see payroll behind the scenes a little bit. And I feel like one employee in one state, it's time to outsource payroll.
Right. And it's a lot of people don't realize the complexity behind it. So it's great to hear that you have personal experience with just how much goes into it, especially when you're dealing with outsourcing it and your accountant is, telling you it's time to get on payroll, but a lot of business owners don't even know what that means. I just came in to to work and do my passion and, grow revenue.
Oh, the
Ben, what are
complexity
some
of
of the
that.
ways? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. What are some of the ways that if we're talking to small businesses or anyone's has interaction with small businesses, of things that might tip us off that they might be needing payroll services or to work with an ADP? What are some of the common things that occur?
The biggest thing that I see when I come across business owners is growth. As they grow and scale their businesses, they're bringing on new employees. Where ADP steps in is helping with the whole lifespan of the employee. So the hire to retire lifespan, it becomes very cumbersome when you're dealing with employees you already have, and then you have to onboard, retain, and recruit. It becomes a lot for business owners.
Very
Yeah.
good.
I want to get into some of the fun questions here. So, what do you see makes for small businesses, right? What is the most common mistake that these small businesses are making with their payroll that you see in your, experience?
The biggest mistake really comes down to when they're manually tracking everything. When you're manually tracking hours and you're, having to do multiple W-2s for employees, you have employees who have garnishments, which just means they have, legally obligated funds required to come out of their paycheck. It becomes a lot to keep track of when you're dealing with everything else. So that's probably the number one mistake we come across, is just everything is so spread out. Where we're able to come in and help is just to consolidate that and streamline all of your payroll and timekeeping, so that at the end of the week or month, whenever you're processing payroll, it's all ready for you to go.
Yeah. I imagine it's pretty common for you to come across people who are just like buried in QuickBooks, right? And just struggling to make this make sense, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then a lot of times entrepreneurs, they have multiple business ventures as well. So they're juggling multiple sign-ons for different payroll accounts, for different workers' compensation accounts, for their benefits. Everything is completely spread out. So when you're able to bring it all together into one platform and it's just a one-stop shop, it's just able to save so much time and headaches.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of sounds slightly similar to what Trumbull Tech does for our clients. It takes that headache off of you. Like if you're passionate about whatever your business is, if it's construction, if it's freight shipping or something like that, focus on what you're passionate about, and all the other stuff that you need to do to run a business, you can let other people who are passionate about that take care of it for you. That sounds great.
Absolutely.
Cost savings and productivity. Let's talk a little bit about compliance and some of the legal liabilities and risk exposure from getting this wrong.
Right. So, I mean, the last thing that anybody wants to see, whether you're a business owner or an individual, is a notice from the IRS. And, we come across business owners that a lot of times they have to react to these IRS notices. And now they're going through an audit that they weren't ready for. They may owe money, so it's affecting their cash flow. And where we're able to help is you can upload any tax file or any tax notice that you get from the IRS directly to a team at ADP, and you'll get updates as we report the audit issue to the IRS, and we'll do that on the business owner's behalf, and then we'll get them a notice when it's done and everything's taken care of. But that's definitely one of the biggest ones that you don't want to be reactive to. You definitely want to be proactive. And in your industry, MSP, being proactive is really, the most important aspect, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, and when you run into issues like that, so say, someone doesn't have an HR company behind them like ADP, and they're managing it on their own, and they do get that mail, that letter in the mail from the IRS, and it's suddenly it's D-Day, a nuclear bomb has gone off. Say they manage it themselves, right? They fumble their way through it. They do the best they can to try and take care of it. What does that time frame look like? Like, how much of a slowdown on their day-to-day company? What's the workload for that? Like, is it a monumental task to handle it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's huge. I mean, I know I'm working with a small business here in Tampa right now that is having to do faxes back and forth with the IRS. And in the meantime, wow, you know, he's struggling to maintain compliance because he's now dealing with the IRS. He doesn't know exactly what they need. And he's trying to fight the government, not fight the government, but essentially work with the government to provide whatever paperwork he needs to maintain business. So it's definitely a very cumbersome task. It's completely overwhelming, especially on top of all of the other things that the small business owners are dealing with.
Yeah. Not knowing all the tax laws and all the intricate pieces that go along with, you know, that discovery process, that's brutal. I mean,
yeah,
you're guessing at that point. I mean, that's why we have folks like ADP, and we've got, you know, attorneys that really understand the legalese in each of the states to kind of guide us through it. If not, I mean, we're a fish out of water.
Yeah. It's interesting. Absolutely. We often talk about cyber incidents, you know, when you get like ransomware or you get some malware on your device, or maybe someone gets access to, you know, some sort of income stream of yours in your company. And we talk about how much that can knock you out of business, you know, and like sometimes we ask clients when we talk to them, like, how long can your business function without income? You know, like without revenue, without pulling in new clients, and without growth, how long can you stay afloat? You know, and for most people, it's not very long. And it's interesting throughout this conversation, it kind of sounds like it's the same when you get that letter from the IRS. You know, it's like, how long can you function? Now you've got this huge extra workload, you know, on your shoulders on top of running your business. How long can you go on like that? You know, so I think that really highlights the benefits of outsourcing your HR and payroll like this. It makes sure that you got that support staff behind you.
Ben, we talked about this when we first met, and we talked about how similar our business is to yours in some respects. It becomes more of a risk conversation than a technology or, you know, rules conversation. Like how much risk are you willing to take on, right? So it's very, very similar.
Absolutely, 100%. And, you know, back to just the burden that's on business owners to not only grow and develop their business, but take care of their employees. They have workers' comp. Each state has different workers' compensation laws and procedures, and just not being entirely confident that everything is working correctly at any given time. You're just assuming risk, unnecessary risk.
I know businesses personally that shut down because they didn't handle payroll taxes, and all of the legalities and details surrounding that correctly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want to wake up 5 years from now and realize you've been getting all that wrong, because there will be a price to pay for getting that wrong.
Yeah. Right. If you're footing a bill for, regardless of size, that you weren't expecting, and that just throws your cash flow management off, then that could be detrimental to your business.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, are there any particular indicators, like if I'm a small business owner and I'm trying to make that decision, is there something that would be an indicator to me that, man, I need to take a step and call somebody? Is that because I've got compliance things to think about, or I hit a certain number of people, or it's taken a certain amount of my time, or what? Is there something that tells the small business person, get in touch with Ben?
Right. So growth is a huge indicator that it's time to assess different vendors, or at least reassess. We encourage business owners to at least semi-annually assess their vendors, whether that's for payroll or any of their other outsourced products. Another one that we come across is recruiting and retaining talent. So I actually work with a air conditioning company locally in Tampa. He called me because he was losing one of his only employees. He had 3 employees. He was losing one of them in the middle of summer to a competitor because he didn't have a retirement plan in place. So the competitor was offering the same pay, but offered retirement. So the employee ended up leaving for his competitor. And as an HVAC company in the middle of summer, that's a really, really hard time to lose somebody when you're in your busiest time of the year in Florida. So a lot of times I'll say when it comes down to recruiting and retaining your top talent, because at the end of the day, you need your employees.
Yeah,
For sure. Again, one of those costs of getting this HR function wrong.
Exactly.
Hidden
Exactly.
cost.
yeah,
And it's not a cost that you can really predict. Everything can be going smoothly, but you don't know what your employees are doing, you know, who they're evaluating with, because you can't really blame anybody for taking a better step for their own career.
Exactly.
Personal and professional growth.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, one thing that really want to, oh, it looks like we actually have a question here from a viewer. Let me grab that before we move on. Looks like they're asking, what is the biggest misconception about payroll outsourcing? That's a good question, Ben. Do you have any? Do you see any
That's an excellent
misconceptions?
question. Thank you for asking. Yes. So the first one that I come across most often is that business owners think they're too small for a company like ADP. They think, oh, it's just me and my son or daughter or friend who run this. The reality is, I work with businesses between 1 and 49 employees. The vast majority of my clients are under 10 employees or even under 5. We're able to support businesses from 1 to 49, but my bread and butter is the 1 to 10, 1 to 15 employee range. And a lot of times business owners think that they don't need that kind of support just because they're small. I'd say another misconception that I come across is that when you hire a company like ADP, that you're only hiring us for the payroll processing. What you get is a whole suite of human resources tools at your disposal to help you recruit, retain top talent, and help with your entire employee life cycle.
Got it. Great. Thank you. And on that topic too, again, another similarity where, we see that all the time in the MSP space where people think that, hey, I'm only 3 people, there's a wonderful anecdote I like to reference. I've got to write it down so I can keep the company name in mind. But basically, there was a really famous data breach, a cyber incident a few years ago. And it was orchestrated by someone in Russia. The attacker was from Russia. And the company at the time thought that they were like, we're too small, this is how much we make and it's not that much. And you look at the salary for the attacker and what the average salary in that section of Russia was, and convert it to US dollars, it was like $20,000 to $30,000 a year. So basically, if you're a business that is making or has in value $20,000 to $30,000 more than $20,000 or $30,000, you are a target. Like no one, as
Right.
long as you're more than that, you're a target. And I'm seeing another similarity here with HR and payroll issues. And I'd love to roll that into a topic here that we really want to talk about is payroll fraud. I'm very curious what your experience is running into payroll fraud in your business. What are the types of payroll scams businesses are falling for today?
Right. A big one that we come across is not necessarily fraud, but it's time theft. Employees doing buddy punching where they clock in on behalf of one of their friends, or they don't clock out for lunch. That's really the biggest one we come across is just internally. If it's only, a 10-minute lunch that they clock in or clock out early for, if you track that over a year, that's a lot of money that you're losing. As far as the payroll fraud goes, there's different scams I'm sure you're more familiar with than I am, but where people ask for, I need to change my login, and they don't slow down and verify the contact is not a phish or a scam or anything like that. And then the business owner is busy, and then the paycheck goes to the wrong person. And after it's left your bank account and goes into another one, it is very hard for anybody, even for the banks, to reconcile that kind of transaction.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, I think I saw something literally just this past week with one of our clients. They flagged a spam email, and they were like, hey, this doesn't seem right. And it was even pretending to be from someone who worked within their company. sending an email to their, payable, receivable, accounts payable and accounts receivable, saying like, hey, updating the, bank routing numbers for this invoice or something like that. This is where the money needs to be sent and not there, and that was totally fraudulent. And they caught it because, and this is a helpful tip for anyone watching, they'll see the name on the email address as maybe their CFO or something like that. But if you look at the address itself and it is not the domain that that person is supposed to belong to, and it's some, random string of letters at randomstringofletters.org or something like that, that it's not coming from the right place, because anyone can set their name, their display name for their email address to anything they feel like. But you always got to keep an eye on that address. So that's an example of one. I literally just saw that a couple of days ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And with ADP, when you're registering and you're onboarding your employees, you have the option to do it with them. You can also send a protected link that they will be able to input everything themselves, including their bank account information, their contact information, just to avoid any, loose documents. Nothing has to be printed, nothing has to be stored where something, if you leave it laying out on a desk, someone can grab that from you. So just another way to enhance the cybersecurity side of it is we're keeping it in the hands of the employee and the employer, and you don't have to, transition documents.
It's awesome. Scott, Elmer, you guys got any questions on this topic?
I don't really have any questions. Kind of a comment. Actually, I do have a question. What would be like the number one security control that every business should implement to protect payroll? This might be for Elmer. I don't know. What do you think,
Elmer?
Well, when you start talking about security controls, whether we're really talking about a local application, a cloud application, a service provider, somebody still has to log in with a password. You know what I mean? And so that's always the weak link in the chain, is just credentialing and identification. And so it's critical, I think, when you're dealing with something, especially like payroll or access to bank accounts, that you're really being rigid about multi-factor authentication. You're using callback processes. You're using really stringent password practices so that there's no password reuse in public forums and that kind of thing. And you're treating the security around that kind of with the importance it needs to be treated with. And I think a lot of people still have pretty sloppy hygiene practices when it comes to applications. They may not have any differentiation in their mind. Is this an application I'm running on my computer? Is this something that's in the cloud? Where is all this data traveling when I'm submitting these social security numbers, and how am I protecting that? So that would be my one thing would be, and I'm sure ADP has plenty of support for multi-factor authentication and different secure processes.
Yeah, to echo what you just said, Elmer, I think it's important. The big challenge is people don't know what's out there, right? So if you don't know what's out there, how do you look for it? How do you keep an eye out? How do you have good hygiene? Something we offer at Trumbull and other organizations offer security awareness training. I think that's so important if you're a one-person office or you're a 100-person office, to be informed about what's out there, because it keeps changing. They come out with new creative ways to be bad and try to, to trick you and to steal your data or lock you out of your computer, all sorts of stuff. So having that security awareness training and going through it, it's interesting because you think, okay, I know everything. I'll watch this. I still do security awareness training. I find out new things that are coming out all the time. And like, I can't believe they're coming out with this. But it's one of those things where you just have to constantly educate yourself to be aware of what's out there so you can protect yourself better.
Yeah, true. I mean, the bad guys are the first to innovate. And so every new technology is really leveraged first and best, honestly, by the bad guys. And so AI is a new tool. The bad guys can use it to do things they weren't able to do before. Their impersonation techniques have taken on a new level of, difficult to detect, that kind of thing. And so they can impersonate faces and voices and video. streams now, so they can. There have been some famous cases where tens of millions of dollars were transferred because a person who was in charge of the money participated in a meeting that was attended by people he thought were the appropriate people to authorize fund transfers, and it turned out they were all AI avatars, and
Yep.
and he transferred the money directly into the bad guy's bank accounts. So,
$25.6 million to be exact.
Yeah.
That's a famous one. That's back in what,
It's a big
2024.
hit.
So,
Yeah, it's a big hit.
We're 2 years ahead now with that technology, so it's even worse.
Yeah, for sure. So everybody has to be aware. You can't get away from that. The need to be aware. The technology, antivirus tools are important. Behavior monitoring, advanced detection tools are important. But the person is still at the keyboard and can still click a bad link and undo it all. So security awareness training is critical for sure.
And you can not gamify, I don't know the word I'm trying to think of, but put this on paper. For small businesses out there, maybe you only have 5 total employees besides yourself or something like that. Create a document, work with your team to create policies around these things so that, in the event that someone gets a payroll payroll information change, like, hey, this is my bank account, it's changed, I got a new debit card or whatever, you can build policies around that when that happens, there is an alternate form of verification that you and your team and your staff have this policy in mind. You review it annually, and okay, when this comes in, we verify by this method, we verify by that method, we confirm that we're talking to the right person. And you can build these out and write them down and review them with your team. That's what we talk about when we mean security awareness training. There are applications and procedures out there where you can literally train your team, right? But also part of that is keeping cybersecurity a state of mind. Make sure your team members are aware of these types of attacks and make sure that they understand why this policy is in place. What is it meant to prevent, and that keeps them on their toes, Unfortunately, there's no better way to learn something than making a mistake, but you can do your best to try and prevent that mistake from happening. And it looks like,
without a doubt, I think the number one way to troubleshoot, I would say we probably all agree on, is to slow down and verify before you click anything. Make sure everything is coming from a trusted source. If you don't trust it, it's probably best that you don't open it because the ramifications are too great. And that's a great, to what you were just saying, Aaron, about having something in place. ADP offers a learning management system. So it's a way for you to require training in as part of your onboarding policy. And you can see and make sure that all of your employees acknowledge that, this training is finished and that they've received the certificate or received the proper training for.
That's awesome.
Whatever it is, but specifically cybersecurity is a big one that we come across with businesses.
Yeah, that's great. That's excellent. That's what we like to see. We always recommend, like I said, annual, semi-annual, even quarterly reviews of cybersecurity policies like that. I mean, this stuff moves so fast, you know what I mean? So make it, and especially when you're hiring new employees, we're talking a lot about growth and how you're building your small business. Keep in mind, you hire an employee and your next quarterly review of your security policies is still 3 months out. That might be a useful thing to add to your onboarding procedures for new employees as well, to make sure you're catching them right at the front gate there. But yeah, it's great to hear that ADP does that. We highly recommend that for all small businesses. Get weird about it. You know what I mean? Like, get into the dirt and the details, make these documents, schedule these meetings. It will save you money. It will save you money. I think I mention it almost every single show now. There's a company out there that Empath, they do this training program and they say, patch your talent stack. And I absolutely love that. That's going to be on my gravestone or something like that, because patch your talent stack. Make sure you are training your team on this, because this is important. And like Elmer has mentioned plenty of times before on the show too, like, users, it's no longer some bad guy getting access to your system. It's a bad guy getting access to one of your users, and counting on that employee to make a mistake. So that's your first line of defense, really. But we do have a question here. Someone else posted a question a few seconds ago. A continuing question for the group. They say AI in HR, opportunity or risk? Ben, do you ever come across a whole lot of people trying to use AI in their HR and payroll programs?
Yeah, absolutely. I personally would say that while there is risk involved, that it is a huge opportunity. There's ways to use AI to streamline a lot of manual, repetitive processes. I mean, that's what it was designed for originally. We have AI in place in certain parts of our process that will scan for mistakes as far as when you're inputting data, for example, on a timesheet. If you accidentally click 400 hours instead of 40 hours on a work week, yeah, which happens, the AI will detect it and say, hey, you're accidentally paying this person for 400 hours. Is this a mistake? And then you can address it right there on the spot. So there are ways 100% where AI can be a great tool to leverage for business owners. You do have to be careful with it, to Elmer's point, to all of your points with, the bad guys will always innovate first. So be careful, make sure it's a trusted source, but I would say it's an opportunity.
Elmer, play devil's advocate. What are some of the things people should watch out for while implementing AI with payroll or anything else in their business?
Well, I think the big risk is believing that it's a magic wand with fairy dust that's going to solve all of your problems. And that's the one thing that I see, is that it's really a tool, and a lot of people think that it's a magical entity. You know what I mean? And it's really not a magical entity. And there's been some pullback from AI from large projects where companies have, for instance, handed over all of their software coding and fired, tens of thousands of developers, and then found out that the AI engine was introducing errors into the code at some measurable percentage of time that required human review, and that they had to hire all those people back to review the code the AI was writing. And so I think there has been that. I saw the same thing happen when cloud applications came out, and everyone that had a network in on premise thought the cloud would be a magic solve all for all of their server problems. And it's somebody else's server problems is what the cloud is. And so AI, if you make the mistake of thinking AI can handle my HR, and all I have to do is build a good enough AI engine or go to Chat GPT and say, write me a policy manual, and expect that that's going to be 100% usable and correct.
Right.
So I'll tell one story to illustrate my point, and that is an example where chatbots, I think we've all had experiences with support being handed over to chatbots. My experiences are not all that great. And there was a recent legal case where in Canada, a person had his, unfortunately, a near relative, his grandmother, pass away. He needed to attend the funeral. He got onto Canada Air's website to ask the chatbot if he could apply for a bereavement benefit when he returned from the funeral. The chatbot answered without any question, absolutely. All you have to do is download the form. When you get back, complete the form, submit it with your receipts and documentation, and in 30 days we'll send you your check. That was a definitive.
That was really recent, right? Yeah, that was super recent.
He submitted the forms as he was instructed. Canada Air denied the claim, said that's not our policy. Our policy is that all claims have to be approved before the travel. So the AI chatbot had just made up something out of thin air that had no relation at all to reality. And it gave it as if it was 100% definitive. It didn't say, I'm not sure, you should check our website. It said, here's the answer.
Wow.
And that's what we're seeing, is that a minimum of, I mean, there are a lot of legal cases where the attorneys have been using AI to research case law and submitting, briefings for their position to the court using a whole bunch of really detailed, really official, correct sounding case histories that when the judges go to research, find out those cases never existed at all. The AI engine just went out and made the case up out of thin air.
Wow.
And so in legal queries, they're finding that that happens between 60 to 90% of the time. In queries regarding healthcare, they're finding somewhere around 65% of all the queries are just hallucinations. And that overall, somewhere around 20% of the information that an AI engine is going to produce could be complete fabrication.
Wow.
And it's not something that can be trained out. It's because it's not true artificial intelligence. It's really a generative language expert system. And so it just predicts what the next word's going to be. It's not, if you ask it to get me a legal case that supports a particular position, it doesn't go out and bring you the most authoritative response to that question. It just builds a response one word at a time. And that's why all those queries are almost all fabrication. And that's why they had to bring all the programmers back, because AI was actually generating more code than the programmers did, and the more code was partially defective and had to be reviewed by real people, and they ended up having to spend more than they would have originally. So there are some real pushbacks to, and I think all of these are the same thing that I was talking about. It's not that AI is bad. When someone like ADP uses it for exactly what Ben was talking about, where we're error correcting and we're ensuring accuracy and we're making sure that here is a process that has to go and follow rules A, B, C, and D, then you can do that with great accuracy in software using these kinds of engines.
Yep.
But when you're saying, draw me a business plan, and you don't do any background research on the numbers that show up in that business plan, and you go invest money based on that business plan, then you're not necessarily doing due diligence around that, because the AI engines have some built-in limitations just based on what they are. But it's again, the complexity that's involved with payroll is such that I think you have to turn to a solution provider like ADP just to be able to leverage their error correcting, making sure the right numbers are getting in the right places. And, they can really help with all this, as well as with the cybersecurity aspect and making sure that doing this is being done in a secure way.
Great. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I would also like to flip that onto the human aspect of ADP, where we provide a lot of value with small business owners, is the human aspect. I'm part of the Tampa community, and I'm working with business owners. We have a 24/7, 365 client services helpline where you're going to get on the phone with a person. It's not going to be an AI phone call. It's going to be a human interaction that's helping you with your small business, because that's one of the biggest frustrations I know I have. I get irrationally angry when I call in for support somewhere and I have to talk into this and it misunderstands me 4 times in a row. That's one of the most frustrating things in the world. And then you end up waiting and your question doesn't even get answered. So the opposite side, where you're not leveraging AI, we can support you on the human level too, where you'll have a meaningful relationship with your account team, and we'll grow with you.
That's awesome. Yeah, big thing that we believe in over at Trumbull Tech. We call ourselves people-powered IT. Ben, I give you permission to call yourself people-powered payroll. Go ahead.
PPP.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, PPP. All right. Well, I have one closing question for everybody. I'll give everyone a chance to answer it. It's a big one, so if you need a second, it is: if you could leave every small business owner with one piece of advice about payroll, HR, and protecting their business, what would it be? And Ben, we'll start with you.
Okay, that's
I
a
could read that
great
again.
question. Yes, please. Let me hear it one more time.
If you could leave every small business owner with one piece of advice about payroll, HR, and protecting their business, what would it be?
So my one piece of advice goes back to what we talked about earlier, and that would be proactive and not reactive.
Mhm.
It's the you don't want to wait until you get that notice from the IRS that you're out of compliance, that there's an audit coming, you have a workers' compensation audit coming, your employees are unhappy with the benefits, and you don't know what's going on. So my biggest piece of advice would be proactive. Make sure you are auditing your vendors, taking care of your small business first, and then taking care of your employees and making sure that you have something in place that is designed to grow with you.
Awesome. Great. I think you get that's jackpot answer. You still are the best one. Scott, what about you? You got anything?
You nailed it. Well, how do I follow that, right?
Yeah.
I'll just say additionally is just be aware of what's out there. Like educate yourself as much as possible, being proactive, but then go to the experts that know the business and are experts in their line of work, whether it's, cybersecurity or whether it's payroll. Go to the people that really know what they're talking about, because the laws change and cybersecurity changed and technology changes so fast. You cannot possibly know it all. And you can't rely on AI, because AI, you're going to get hallucinations. You're not going to get everything. It's not going to be exact. So do your research, then go to the source. And for God's sakes, security awareness training is key. To know what is out there to protect yourself and all the different levels of scams. It's very important to do that on a regular basis. That's my answer.
Awesome. Elmer, do you have anything else you can say? I think
Man,
it's all been said, right?
Life. Those guys,
yeah, sorry.
Those guys got their answers right. So I'm going to second all of the previous answers and just reiterate that getting these things wrong, IT, payroll, HR, that's an existential threat to the business. And so it's often discussed in terms of, can I save some money? What's my productivity impact? How much is this going to cost? But I think to a large degree, I've unfortunately lived in an industry where I see businesses fail because somebody clicked on a link. Yep. And I said that I've seen businesses fail because they didn't get their payroll, HR, and taxes handled correctly. And so it's an existential problem. Get the experts involved, be proactive about it. And you don't want to wake up and get a surprise that you're not prepared for and then lose everything because of it.
Great. And I suppose I should eat my own dog food and answer and be the actual person last year. The only thing left to say is look both ways before you cross the street. I think you guys got everything. I don't know what else to say. Red light means don't cross the intersection. Yeah, green means go. No, thank you for everyone for being here. And before we leave off, I want to throw this up on the screen here. If you all watching this right now have any further questions for Ben or for us, our contact information, reach out. And if you need HR and payroll services, get in touch with Ben. I'm going to put his business card up on the screen here. Let's see. There we go. This is his information. If you need to chat with Ben about HR, payroll, even if you just have a curious question from this show that you didn't get to ask, please reach out. Go ahead and take this information down. I'll leave it up before we close out the stream. I'll leave it up for a few minutes here, so in case anyone needs it. Ben, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciated you being here. Excellent answers.
It's been great.
Elmer and Scott, it was cool to talk at whatever, Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
I'm sure we'll chat in a few minutes.
I got one last addition before we close out of here. We actually have partnered with Trumbull Tech, so we have a formal relationship now. And before we leave, I just wanted to say that anybody that comes to me through ADP or for ADP payroll services or anything will get an exclusive discount through Trumbull Tech. So thanks, Trumbull, for partnering with us. We'd like to show some gratitude to this opportunity to our clients. And just if you're a small business owner or a tax professional located anywhere and have any questions or need some support with ADP, please do not hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Yeah.
Very
Thank you
good.
so much, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
And one last thing before we go, join us next month. Our next show in September, we will have Wes Spencer with Empath, where we'll be discussing AI and the legal liability that comes with using chatbots. You won't want to miss it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Bye, everybody.